Hello guys, hello everyone. So today we are on to our second chapter, part 1, which is demand. Right? My dear friends, if you talk about the composition of this chapter, this chapter is divided into two parts. Number 1 is demand and the number 2 part and the second part is elasticity of demand. But before I begin into the discussion, I like to tell you one thing and please remember that when we study this chapter, जब हम लोग ये chapter अभी पढ़ेंगे, please remember we have got to think from consumer's point of view. अपने को consumer के point of view से सोचना है. मैं repeat कर रहा हूँ, I'll repeat for you all that while we study this chapter, we have got to think from whose point of view? From consumer's point of view. Come on, first question of the day. While studying this chapter, demand, from whose point of view will you think? Come on, yaar. Is it the consumer or is it the supplier? Yes, you are absolutely correct. You have to think from the consumer's point of view. When you study demand, you will have to study, you will have to think, you will have to learn from the consumer's point of view. To the contrary, when I move to supply, I'll tell you, you will have to think from supplier's point of view, producer's point of view. But such is not the case now. Such is not the case now, right? So here you have got to think from whose point of view? From consumer's point of view. Okay. So with that being said, let's move on into the discussion of the concept of demand. Before I start, let's get the journey of demand. Like what are we supposed to study? So first of all, I'll explain you the concept, meaning of demand, how demand is a flow concept. I'll tell you all this. Some types of demand I will explain that will help us in elasticity of demand. Okay. Factors affecting demand, rationale behind the downward sloping demand curve, exceptions to the law of demand, and movement versus shift of demand. Movement versus shift of demand. Okay. So this is what we are going to cover. Once we have covered this, we are, you can be rest assured that we are very well prepared for our examination. Okay. So with that being said, let's attack today. Okay. So what is demand? Pay attention, everybody. What is demand? See, in normal language, in normal language, please remember, just focus on the class. Don't keep any book copy. You will have to study institute material later, or you can keep it now with yourself, because all the things I'm teaching from institute material only. But do not be distracted from the class that we are doing now. Attend the class properly. Okay. So let's focus. When we talk about demand, first of all, demand refers to quantity. What does demand refer to? Quantity. Who is ready to buy this quantity? Yes, consumers. Quantity which the consumers are ready to buy. Just a minute, guys. But is readiness enough? If readiness is enough, you tell me one thing. If readiness is enough, you tell me one thing. If readiness is enough, then you just tell me one thing. I demand Taj Mahal then. Is it right to say this? Because readiness is not enough. Readiness plus ability, both have to go together, right? So there is readiness, that is readiness or willingness. But readiness or willingness is not enough. It should be backed by ability. It should be backed by ability to buy such commodity. So when quantity which the consumers are ready plus able to buy at different prices, at like, so for example, if price is rupees 10, I will consume, let's say if price is rupees 10, I will consume 100 units. If price is, let's say, rupees 20, I'll consume 50 units, so on and so forth. So at various prices at particular point of time, because whenever we talk about demand, we talk about a point of time. So at a particular point of time. So if we add up all the things, what definition did we come to? So the definition that we came to is quantity which consumers are. Come on, focus everybody. Quantity which consumers are. It's written in the institute material. Don't worry. Quantity which the consumers are ready plus able to buy at various prices at a particular period of time. At various prices at a particular point of or period of time. Point of time is a better word. At a particular point of time. You know, someone may ask you, what concept is demand? Remember, there are two kinds of concepts in economics. One is called a stock concept. One is called a flow concept. Stock concept is like balance sheet. You know, what is the value of machine that you own today? Let's say 5 lakh. What is the wealth that you have today? Let's say 1 crore. So whatever it is, that is stock concept. But in demand, it keeps on changing. So today the demand was 100 units. Tomorrow the demand is 500 units. So demand is always expressed with reference to a time period. So that's why it is a flow concept. Demand is always referred with time period. Demand is always referred with what? With time period. That's why demand is called a flow concept. Now to sum it up in Hindi, to summarize it in Hindi, डिमांड का मतलब होता है वो क्वांटिटी ऑफ कमोडिटी, वो मात्रा में कमोडिटीज जो कंज्यूमर्स, ग्राहक खरीदने को तैयार है एक पर्टिकुलर दाम पर, ठीक है, या मल्टीपल दामों पर, अलग अलग समय पर, एक पर्टिकुलर समय पर. समझ में आया? एक पर्टिकुलर समय पर. क्लियर है ना? राइट सर. एंड याद रखें आप, डिमांड का मतलब केवल इस चीज से नहीं है कि आप रेडी हो खरीदने के लिए, आप तैयार हो खरीदने के लिए. तैयार होने के साथ साथ आपकी कैपेसिटी, आपके पास इतना पैसा होना चाहिए कि आप उसे खरीद भी सकें. तो एबिलिटी और रेडीनेस दोनों होना चाहिए. आप तैयार भी होने चाहिए और आपकी कैपेसिटी भी होनी चाहिए पे करने की. तब आप किसी कमोडिटी को बोलते हो कि आपका उसका डिमांड है. क्लियर है ना? राइट सर. सो माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, डिमांड कॉन्सेप्ट इज एब्सोल्युटली क्लियर. यस सर. सर, डिमांड कॉन्सेप्ट इज एब्सोल्युटली क्लियर. मस्ट बी क्लियर. नाउ माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, let's talk about demand curve. Okay, let's talk about demand curve. Okay, there are two major types of demand. Like I told na, there are two major types of demand I'll tell you about. One is individual demand. Please pay attention everybody, because that will explain a lot of things. First I'll talk about individual demand. Guys, you all tell me what will happen. Let's say we talk about a particular product. Okay, so price is here, quantity is here. If price is rupees 100, let's say quantity demanded is 2000 units. Okay, 2000 units. Price is in rupees. Okay, quantity is in units, let's say. Okay, now you all tell me, what do you think will happen if price reduces to 80? Will quantity remain the same? Will it increase or will it decrease? It is a normal commodity. Okay, so what do you think? Maybe it is a price of a t-shirt, let's say. So price was 100 rupees, then demand was 2000. Now with discount offer, price has gone to 80 rupees. What do you think should be the quantity demanded? Tell me, will it be lesser, will it be equal, or will it be greater than 2000 unit? Just this much you tell me. What do you think, guys? What do you think? क्या लगता है आपको? Yes sir, you all are correct when you tell me कि sir, we feel that the quantity demanded will rise here as the price is falling. The quantity demanded will rise here. You all are absolutely correct in saying so. So let's say you go to 2400 units. So see, when price falls, quantity demanded rises. Did you see it? You all understand it, right? When price falls, quantity demanded rises. But is price the only factor affecting demand? No, sir. There are many factors affecting demand. Let's say consumers' income is increasing and so many other things are happening. So when we talk about individual demand, or when we talk about law of demand, let's say, when we talk about law of demand, please remember, when we talk about law of demand tells us that when price rises, quantity will fall, and when price falls, quantity will rise, other factors remaining constant. It means that demand is not only influenced by price, there are other factors also. We are going to study those factors. But for the time being, whatever those factors are, be it income of the consumer, be it any other factor, whatever it be, we are assuming it to be constant. That is not changing. So when price rises, quantity falls. When price falls, quantity rises. Other factors remaining constant. This is what law of demand tells us. Now, I'll come back to law of demand once again. मैं law of demand पर वापस आ जाऊंगा. But sir, what is individual demand? Individual demand talks about demand for a commodity by an individual consumer. Individual demand talks about demand for a commodity by an individual consumer. So when we talk about individual demand, we talk about who? We talk about an individual consumer. Okay, it can be Mr. Let's say it can be Mr. X. So Mr. X When price is 100, he will demand 2000 units. When price goes down to 80, Mr. X will demand 2400 units. When we make a statement like this, who are we talking about? The entire market about that commodity or only Mr. X? We are talking about a single consumer. We are talking about a single consumer. Okay? Right? So when we talk about this, this, my dear friends, is called individual demand. When we talk about individual consumers' actions, that is on different prices, what will be the quantity demanded by that individual consumer? When you're talking that way, you're talking about individual demand. Now let me plot it for you. So guys, this is y-axis, this is x-axis. So if you plot price here, quantity here, you see automatically you will get a similar curve. So if price is 100, let's say price is 100, quantity is how much? 2000. So let's say I plotted it here 2000. Okay, but let's say price has gone down to 80. So now quantity has gone up to 2400. So if it has gone up to 2400, the new intersection is taking place here. So when we join them both, that is it. This is our demand curve. It is downward sloping in nature. Why is it downward sloping? Because from left to right you study. Left to right it is going down. And that's why we call it a downward sloping demand curve. What do we call it? We call it a downward sloping demand curve. What do we call it? We call it a downward sloping demand curve. What do we call it? A downward sloping demand curve. क्योंकि लेफ्ट से राइट नीचे की तरफ गिर रहा है. तो जब प्राइस बढ़ेगा क्वांटिटी घटेगा, जब प्राइस घटेगा क्वांटिटी बढ़ेगा, अदर फैक्टर्स रिमेनिंग कांस्टेंट. इसे हम लोग बोलते हैं लॉ ऑफ डिमांड. और इंडिविजुअल डिमांड का मतलब होता है जब आप सिर्फ एक कंज्यूमर के बारे में बात कर रहे होते हो. इंडिविजुअल डिमांड होता है जब आप सिर्फ एक इंडिविजुअल कंज्यूमर के बारे में बात कर रहे होते हो कि अलग अलग प्राइसेस पर वो अकेला इंडिविजुअल कंज्यूमर किस क्वांटिटी को कंज्यूम करेगा. वो अकेला इंडिविजुअल कंज्यूमर अलग अलग प्राइसेस पर किस क्वांटिटी को कंज्यूम करेगा. व्हेन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट दैट, यू आर कॉलिंग इट एज इंडिविजुअल डिमांड. I hope it's crystal clear, guys. Yes or no, please? Yes. Okay, got it, sir. So now we have understood individual demand. Let's talk about market demand. Now, what is market demand? Guys, you all tell me. Like I talked about Mr. X only, right? Let me ask you one thing. Is market comprised of only one consumer or there are many consumers? What do you think? Obviously, sir, in a market there are many consumers like Mr. X, Mr. Y, Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. Z, Mrs. B, Mrs. C, Mrs. D, and there are so many other people in the market. So when we club their demands together, so for example, I'll give you an example, don't worry. Let's say when price of commodity is 10 and then it rises and then it falls to 8 rupees. So quantity demanded by Mr. A is 100. When it goes down, quantity demanded rises to 150. Similarly, Mr. B reacts in a different way. When price is 10, Mr. B buys 200. When price goes down, Mr. B buys 300. Similarly, there is Mr. C here, Mrs. C here. So when price is 10 rupees, Mrs. C is buying, let's say 500 units. When price goes down, she is, let's say, buying 700 units. So my dear friends, what is happening? Now I am displaying the entire price and quantity data for all the consumers. When we do that and we club all the quantities together, that is called market demand. So 100 plus 200 is 300, 300 plus 500 is 800. Similarly, 300 plus 700 is 1000. 1000 plus 150 is 1150. So when we club them together, that is called market demand. When we club them together, that is called market demand. Market demand. Oh, so you are telling sum total of individual demand is market demand. Yes, sir. I am telling that only. You are correct. तो जब आप इंडिविजुअल कंज्यूमर्स के डिमांड को आप ऐड कर दोगे, आपको जो डिमांड मिलेगा वो है मार्केट डिमांड. कहानी खत्म. That's it. Okay, so we get it, sir. All right then, let's go ahead. Let's move forward. Acha, here is the demand curve. You see, all the cases it will be downward sloping. Just remember, market demand curve will be relatively flatter. So if they ask you in exam, is market demand curve a little different from individual demand curve? Yes, it is a relatively flatter thing. Because individual demand is talking about only one consumer, but market demand curve is talking about many, and that's why it is a relatively flatter curve. That's why it is relatively flatter curve. Nobody will ask you the reason. Come on, it's an MCQ based. But what I'm trying to tell you is you got to remember that when they ask you about market demand, please remember it's relatively flatter. Market demand curve is relatively flatter. Market demand curve is relatively flatter because it is taking into consideration demand of all the consumers. It is taking into consideration demand of all the consumers. Okay, sir, we get it, sir. Now moving on. Let's talk about some types of demand. Guys, when I show you this diagram, I am displaying you two things. Can you tell me what am I showing you? Yes, sir, we can see it. Sir, one way we are seeing a car and the other thing that we are seeing is petrol. So my dear friends, such commodities, I wanted to tell you, such commodities demand is called joint demand. Because you see, there is no use of car without petrol and there is no use of petrol if there is no car. So these commodities are wanted together. It is called joint demand and such goods are called complementary goods. Why they are called complementary goods? Because they complement each other. They help each other out. एक दूसरे के साथ है, हम साथ हैं. That's why they are called complementary goods and the demand for such goods is called joint demand. Demand for such goods is called joint demand. Car and petrol for that matter. I hope it's crystal clear, friends. Yes or no, please. That's joint demand. Okay, sir, it's clear. Now, my dear friends, the next one you see here. Okay. What do you see? All these products that you see in front of you have one thing in common. Can you tell me what? All these products have one thing in common. What is it? Can you tell me, please? Yes, sir. We definitely can. We definitely do get it, sir. That all these products have one thing in common. All those are dairy products. Yes. So now, all of them are made of milk. So when you demand products which have multiple uses, like milk, electricity, these products have multiple uses. That demand is called composite demand. Because I will use such words while we study. So that's why I explained. Demand for such products is called composite demand. Okay. Demand for such products is called composite demand. Okay. So what is joint demand? Products that are wanted together like car and petrol. Okay. And what is composite demand? Demand for products which have multiple uses, like demand for milk, because milk has multiple uses. So when you demand products which have multiple uses, you call them composite demand, or the demand for them is said to be composite in nature. Yes, sir, we get it, sir. Now, moving on. The important thing, we have come to the most important thing now. Which is factors affecting demand. So please talk about factors, sir. Yes, factors affecting demand. Means, I was just talking to you. We discussed about price being one of the factors, right? On price. So you all agreed with me. You said that, sir, if the commodity is a normal one, like clothes and everything, clothes, traveling and all. So when prices rise, quantity demanded falls. And when prices falls, quantity demanded rises. But do you think demand for a commodity is affected only by its price? No, sir. There are many other things. Yes, there are many other things. That's what we are discussing here. So let's first of all hear about the factors. So my dear friends, here are some of the factors that affect demand. Income of the consumer. Price is obviously the most important one. How much advertising is going on? What season is it? What is the tastes and preferences of the consumer? What is the price of complementary goods? What is the price of substitute goods? Acha, sir, we know complementary goods. Complementary goods is like car and petrol, which are wanted together, which are used together. Car and petrol. But what are substitute goods, sir? Sir, you did not tell us about substitute goods. Yes, I will tell you about substitute goods now. My dear friends, substitute goods are the goods that are opposite of one another. They are enemies. Enemy. They are enemy. Like tea and coffee. Yes. They are enemies of one another. So if you have one, you won't have the other, mostly. Like if the demand for one will increase, the demand for other will definitely decrease. Tea and coffee is number one example of substitute goods, where rise in one leads to fall in another. Where rise in one leads to fall in another. You could also say, nowadays this OTT platforms, nowadays, and this cinema halls, somehow they are substitute goods, because of if individual is watching that movie in OTT platforms, more often than not, they will not visit the cinema hall. At least some of them will not. So somehow they are substitutes. Got it? Substitute goods means same thing, but competing goods, right? Right. All right, sir. Got it, sir. तो गाइस, मैं आप लोगों को एक बार समराइज कर देता हूं मैंने क्या बताया. मैंने टाइप्स ऑफ डिमांड में पहले आपको बताया ज्वाइंट डिमांड, जैसे कार एंड पेट्रोल, ये वो कमोडिटीज है जो एक साथ यूज होती है, इसीलिए ज्वाइंट डिमांड. फिर मैंने आपको बताया कंपोजिट डिमांड, उन चीजों का डिमांड जैसे मिल्क जिनका मल्टीपल यूजेस हो, उसे बोलते हैं हम लोग कंपोजिट डिमांड. ठीक है. फिर हमने बोला आपको सब्स्टिट्यूट गुड्स. सब्स्टिट्यूट गुड्स जैसे कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री गुड्स दोस्त है एक दूसरे के, सब्स्टिट्यूट गुड्स दुश्मन है एक दूसरे के. सो इफ यू आर हैविंग टी, अगर आप चाय पी रहे हो तो आप उस समय कॉफी नहीं कंज्यूम कर रहे हो, एंड अगर आप कॉफी कंज्यूम कर रहे हो तो आप चाय कंज्यूम नहीं कर रहे. बट कार और पेट्रोल में क्या है, जब आप कार कंज्यूम कर रहे हो या कार यूज कर रहे हो तब आप पेट्रोल भी यूज कर रहे हो. ठीक है. तो वो हो गया कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री. जहां पे दुश्मन हो गया वो हो गया सब्स्टिट्यूट गुड्स. अब एक एक करके बात करते हैं. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट दिस. ओके. यस. Factors affecting demand. All right. Let's discuss each one of them. Okay. So there was this own price of the commodity, advertising, income of consumer, price of substitutes, price of complements, change in tastes and preferences, and seasonal nature of commodity. Let's talk about each one in detail. Okay. I believe all of us are ready. So number one factor is obviously own price of the commodity. Commodity's own price. And there is not much to say. Not much to say. All of us know that if product becomes expensive, normally the quantity demanded will fall, and if product becomes cheaper, the quantity demanded will rise. I mean, what is the clue here? It's obvious. Okay, sir, we get it. Number one is own price of the commodity. What is the second one, sir? What is the second one, sir? So first one is the own price of the commodity. Second one is the price of related commodities. Second one is price of related commodities. Yes, sir. Okay. Then we talk about price of related commodities. Price of related commodities. So when we talk about price of related commodities, here we get mainly two types of commodities. Obviously, there would be complementary goods. Related means they can either be complementary to each other or they could be substitutes of one another. Now let me tell you something. Apply basic sense and your answer will be there. See, complementary car and petrol. So guys, you think if price of car increases, what will happen? Obviously, sir, if car becomes expensive, quantity of petrol will fall. Why? Because as we studied in own price, that is, if price of car rises, then quantity demanded for car will fall. We studied this under own price, that if car becomes expensive, quantity of car will fall. So come on, now what will be its impact on petrol? What will be its impact on petrol? So if car becomes expensive, quantity of petrol will obviously go down, because if people are not buying cars, why the hell will they want to take petrol? You will not see people, on a random Sunday planning to go and buy petrol even if they don't have a car. Obviously, it's not making any sense. So that's what I'm trying to say. In case of complementary goods, if price of one good increases, quantity of both will fall. So there is a kind of inverse relationship. Sir, what is inverse relationship? When rise in one leads to fall in another, or fall in one leads to rise in another. That is opposite relationship. Inverse means opposite relationship. That is, one is rising, the other one will fall, and one is falling, the other one will rise. So when you talk about that opposite relationship nature, then we are discussing. Okay, sir. Moving on, let's talk about substitute goods. So obviously, if you see about substitute goods, if you talk about price of tea, now if tea has become expensive, come on, you will tell me something. If tea has become expensive, will people want to drink tea or coffee? Obviously, coffee. So if price of a substitute rises, the quantity will of the commodity will rise. So if tea has become expensive, obviously due to own price effect, quantity demanded for tea will go down, and so quantity demanded for coffee will go up. So there is a kind of direct relationship that you see here. In own price of the commodity, it was inverse relationship. Inverse means that rise in price of one will lead to fall in demand for that. That is, if price rises, demand falls. But direct relationship means if one is rising, the other one will also rise. Sir, we get it, sir. Sir, we get it, sir. All right, sir. So that's what we are discussing. So in complementary goods, inverse relation, substitute goods, direct relation, and in own price, obviously inverse relation. There is no doubting this fact. Moving on. Number 3, income or disposable income. Disposable income means the income that you have with yourself. Disposable income means the income that you have with yourself to spend. Disposable income means the income that you have with yourself to spend. What is disposable income? The income that you have got with yourself to spend. Sir, we get it, sir. So if the income is disposable, please pay attention. If the income is disposable in nature, if the income is, please pay attention, friends. If the income is disposable in nature, that is, you have a lot of income. That is, if you have a lot of income. So if the income is disposable in nature, what is happening? Think carefully. If the income is disposable, obviously here there are 3 kinds of commodities that we need to study. Is it a normal commodity? Is it an inferior, poor quality commodity? Or is it an inexpensive necessity? Because it will have different impacts on different commodities. Okay, inexpensive necessity. I'll give you an example. What is normal commodity? Like clothes, traveling. So think of this. अगर आपका इनकम बढ़ेगा, if your income rises, आप कपड़े और खरीदोगे कि कम खरीदोगे? आप और खरीदोगे. So if income rises, for normal commodities, quantity demanded will rise. For normal commodities. ठीक है? What is inferior commodities? These are poor quality commodities. Poor quality. Suppose, guys, there is a family, who cannot afford good quality rice. So they are consuming poor quality rice. PQR. Poor quality rice. They are consuming poor quality rice. Okay. Now, the child in that family got a job. So now the family's income risen. Now, once the family income has risen, do you think they will want to consume inferior commodities or will they shift to normal ones? Sir, they will shift to normal ones. So that's what we are discussing here. That if your income rises, अगर आपका income बढ़ जाता है, तो अब आपकी वो मजबूरी नहीं रही कि आप inferior commodity consume करें. तो जब आपका income बढ़ता है, आप inferior goods को छोड़कर normal commodities की तरफ बढ़ सकते हैं. इसका मतलब inferior goods का quantity demanded क्या होगा? Inferior goods का जो quantity demanded है वो कम हो जाएगा. तो जो पुअर क्वालिटी राइस का क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड है वो कम हो जाएगा. सो देखिए आप, अगर नॉर्मल कमोडिटी है, इफ द कमोडिटी वाज नॉर्मल, कम ऑन पे अटेंशन एवरीवन, इफ द कमोडिटी वाज नॉर्मल, then the rise in income resulted in rise in quantity demanded. If the commodity was normal, income rise means quantity demanded rise. But if it is inferior, the rise in income will let people shift to better quality commodities, and therefore inferior quantity goods demand will decline. I hope it's crystal clear, friends. Yes, sir. Next, what is inexpensive necessity? Now, my dear friends, inexpensive necessity means salt, namak, matchbox, matches. Now you will tell me, if your income rises or if your income falls, will it be a matter of will it be as a matter of fact affect inexpensive necessities demand? No, because it will not happen that just because your family income has risen, you all started eating more of salt. Doesn't make sense, right? And just because your income fell, you stopped consuming salt. Come on, it is such inexpensive commodity that neither will happen. So here we can say no effect or maybe slight change. No effect or maybe slight change. Income will have no impact or maybe slight impact. You will never see people bargaining over cost of matchbox. They are buying matchbox for their house needs. They are saying, no, why you are charging 5.5 rupees instead of 5 rupees? You will never see them doing that. Got it, sir. Got it, sir. So therefore, in any expensive necessities, there is almost negligible or no impact. Okay. Then, so what we were discussing, we have discussed income, we have discussed price of substitutes, complementary, own price. Now we are discussing tastes and preferences. Okay. So let's talk about tastes and preferences then. All right. Yes, sir. Tastes and preferences. A very simple point, huh? Nothing to be worried about here. Tastes and preferences. So come on, friends. Here, so there is nothing. If you like the taste, quantity demanded will go up. If you don't like the taste, quantity demanded will go down. Full stop. Khatam game. So if you like the tastes. If you like taste, quantity demanded will also go up. And if you dislike the taste, or if you do not like the product, quantity demanded will go down. Finished. I mean, what is there to talk about any further? As far as fourth point is concerned, अगर आपको कमोडिटी पसंद आएगा, आप डिमांड बढ़ाओगे, खराब लगेगा, आप कम कर दोगे. फिनिश्ड. फिफ्थ पॉइंट, कंज्यूमर्स एक्सपेक्टेशन. What is the fifth point? Consumers' expectations. So the fifth point, consumer expectation, is a very easy one. Consumer expectation. Now that's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. I'll give you an example of COVID. I will give you an example of COVID times. Yes, you see in COVID times, there were masks. Now people worried that the price of masks may go up even further in future. It did not really go up. People were expecting the prices will go up in future. And so their quantity at present demanded increased. So when consumer is taking action on basis of some expectation about the future, it's called consumer expectation demand. So if a consumer is expecting, pay attention, if a consumer is expecting that in future price of a certain commodity will rise, then they will prefer it to buy it today. So quantity demanded at present will rise. But if the consumer is expecting the price of a particular commodity to fall in the future, so they will postpone their consumption. They will prefer to buy it later. This is how stock markets work. Yes, sir, we do agree. But that's what we are discussing here. Consumer expectation. Consumer's expectation. Sir, we get it, sir. Sir, we get it, sir. All right, sir. So this is the consumer expectation point. Let's move on to the next one. Let's move on to the next one. So consumer expectation we have done. There are many other factors also, right? There are many other factors also. So let's discuss. See, 5 main factors we have discussed. These were the main ones. There are some other factors written in our book. So we will study them also. Like number 1, size of population. Obviously, if population is more, quantity will be more. Population is less, quantity demanded will be less. Come on, very basic. Age distribution. This is interesting. Age distribution. Now, guys, India is considered one of the youngest countries in the world. So now, if India has mostly young people, you will see demand for products consumed by young people, right? Demand for products consumed mainly by young people. It can be, copy. It can be a book. It could be a earphone. It could be a headset, like a boat headset or something, some headphone. That will increase. But if you see the majority population is old or latter middle class, you will see commodities consumed by these people will generally rise. It could be demand for yoga belts. It could be demand for yoga mats. I'm not saying that young people are not doing yoga. Come on. What I'm trying to say is the age distribution decides what nature of commodities will be consumed more. But that's all. Got it, sir? Got it, sir. Moving on. Now, let's discuss further. B is done. Number C, national income. Obviously, if country has high income, people have high average income, demand will be more. If people have less average income, demand will be less. What am I trying to say here? It's very easy. Next, credit facility. So is the loan easily available? अगर आपको कुछ खरीदना है तो loan is easily available or not? If the loan is easily available, at low rate of interest, then obviously people will want to take loans and therefore quantity demanded will rise. But if loans are not easily available, loans are expensive, obviously quantity demanded will fall. If loans become expensive. Yes, sir, it's crystal clear to us. That is point number D, credit facility. And finally, government policies. You know, it's interesting that now budget is being discussed while we are doing this class. So what policies is government bringing? Right now, you see, like I have not gone through the entire budget because it is still in progress. But you know, I studied it. Like what I heard was that now income up to 7 lakh will possibly not be taxable. So when we tell that up to 7 lakh income will no more be taxable, so people will have higher purchasing power. Like now the budget is being discussed as we discuss this class. So there is an announcement in the budget, you know, up to 7 lakh rupees, there will be no income tax payable. So guys, think, because of this, people will not have to share their portion of income with the government, so they can spend it on their own consumption. As a result, quantity demanded will go ahead. Yes, sir. We get it, sir. So government policies. Now, if you think, if the government would have increased the taxes, had government increased the taxes, what would have happened? If the government would have increased the taxes, the consumption power of people would have fallen down. So the quantity demanded would have risen or fallen. Obviously, sir, in that scenario, quantity demanded by the people would have fallen greatly. But it has not happened. Why it has not happened? Because this was here. Yes, sir. Because it has not happened. But let's say government increases the taxes. Obviously, the disposable income available with you will go down. If the disposable income available with you goes down, the demand will automatically go down. Yes, sir, we get it. So, my dear friends, please could you confirm, is everything crystal clear? Yes or no? Correct. Okay. So now, what is demand function? It's a very easy question. What is a demand function? Guys, you will tell me one thing. Basic maths, all of us know. Very basic maths, I am asking you, you tell me. Okay? I have written an equation. Y equals to 2x plus 3. Okay? You will just tell me one thing. Yes. You tell me one thing again. Acha, one of our friends is telling to explain government policies again. I'll explain it in Hindi. अगर सरकार टैक्स बढ़ा देगी तो आपके पास जो पैसा रहता है, कम पैसा बचेगा आपके पास, क्योंकि ज्यादा पैसे तो सरकार के पास चले जाएंगे, तो आप ज्यादा खरीद पाओगे क्या? नहीं. तो अगर टैक्स बढ़ता है तो आपके पास कम इनकम बचेगा, क्योंकि बाकी सब तो सरकार के पास चला गया, तो ऑटोमेटिकली क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड घट जाएगा. परंतु अगर सरकार टैक्स कम कर देती है तो आपके पास ज्यादा इनकम बचेगा, जिसका अर्थ है आप ज्यादा क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड कर पाओगे. सिंपल सी बात है. ओके सर, वी गेट इट सर. तो सर ये बात तो क्रिस्टल क्लियर है. दिस थिंग इज क्रिस्टल क्लियर. ऑलराइट, लेट्स मूविंग ऑन. सो आई आस्क्ड यू अ क्वेश्चन एवरीबॉडी. I have written an equation of maths. Okay, y equals to 2x plus 3. Okay, y equals to 2x plus 3. So when we talk about y equals to 2x plus 3, then you will tell me one thing. To find y, whose value do you need? Obviously, sir, to find y, we need the value of x. Agreed. That's it. So that's what I'm trying to tell you here, that until and unless you put x ka value, you will not get y ka value. For example, let me give you an example. Let's say if I put x equals to 1, what is y equals to? 2 into 1 plus 3, that is 5. If x equals to 2, then y will be equal to 2 into 2 plus 3, that is 7. Understood, sir? So see, here y is the dependent variable, because y is depending on x for its value. And who is the independent variable? X independent variable है. x को y से मतलब नहीं है, पर y को x से मतलब है. Correct. My dear friends, similarly, quantity demanded is also dependent on lot many things. Quantity demanded is also dependent on what does it depend? It depends on price of the commodity. It depends on income of the consumer. It depends on price of related commodities. It depends on consumers' tastes and preferences. It depends on government policies and so many other things. So this relationship between quantity demanded and factors affecting quantity demanded is called demand function. This is called demand function. The relationship between quantity demanded and the factors affecting the quantity demanded is called demand function. I hope it's crystal clear. जो ये रिश्ता है between quantity कितना कंज्यूम हो रहा है और ये किस पर निर्भर करता है कि प्राइस क्या है, इनकम क्या है, रिलेटेड कमोडिटीज का प्राइसेस क्या है, तो ये जो रिश्ता है, ये जो रिलेशन है, इस रिलेशन को हम लोग बोलते हैं डिमांड फंक्शन. Got it, sir. Got it, sir. So, my dear friends, I believe you all got it this one. At least, yes, sir. Now, sir, let's come to law of demand once again. Now, let's come to law of demand once again. What does law of demand tell? What does law of demand tell? My dear friends, law of demand tells us a very simple thing. What does law of demand tell? A very simple thing. Law of demand tells us that when price of a commodity rises, law of demand tells us that when price of a commodity rises, its quantity demanded will fall. When price rises, quantity demanded will fall. Pay attention, everyone. What does law of demand tell? Law of demand tells us that when price of a commodity rises, its quantity demanded will fall. And when price falls, quantity demanded will rise. Other factors remaining constant. Now you know what the other factors are. It can be income. It can be price of related commodities. It can be consumer tastes and preferences. So all those are assumed to be constant. Instead of other factors remaining constant, sometimes in our books, we find written ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus means other factors remaining constant. Both mean the same thing. Because you see now, nobody, who gave this law of demand, by the way? It's called Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall gave. That's why it's called the Marshallian law of demand. It's called the Marshallian law of demand. Alfred Marshall gave this law. Okay, na? All right, sir. So now let me clear it for you. Let me clear it for you. So one of our friends wanted to know that what will be the definition of demand function. So my dear friend, the demand function definition is relationship between quantity demanded and factors affecting quantity. Okay, moving on. What is law of demand? Law of demand tells us that if price of a product goes up, quantity will go down, and when price goes down, quantity will go up. Other factors remaining constant. That is ceteris paribus. Finished. Oh, so sir, it's simple. Yes, indeed, it is very simple. That's what I was telling you all. Got it, sir. Got it, sir. Now we all move to another case. What are we moving to? We are moving to. I will come to rationale of law of demand. But before rationale, I will explain you the other concept. What is the other concept? That is exceptions to the law of demand. Exceptions to the law of demand. Exceptions to law of demand. Acha. So, sir, what is it exactly? Exceptions to the law of demand. See, what does law of demand tell us? Yes. So what does the law of demand tell us? Okay. And by the way, when I'm talking about law of demand, we are only talking about normal goods. Law of demand is not mentioning anything about inferior goods or luxury goods. No. Any law in this world, any law in this world, any law in this world. Yes, I'll upload this PPT. हाँ, मैं ये PPT upload कर दूंगा. Any law in this world is made for the purpose of generalization. It's not made for exceptional things. It's made for general things. So what is normal? Normal goods. And therefore, whenever we study, we are always studying about normal commodities. We are not concerned about inferior nature commodities, or we are, as a matter of fact, not concerned about luxury goods. Okay. Yes, sir, we get that. So what was I telling you? What I was telling you is that in case of normal goods, if price rises, quantity demanded will fall, and if price falls, quantity demanded will rise. This is the normal law, general behavior. Everybody agreed till here? If you agree, write yo in the chat box. Come on, everybody. If you agree, write yo in the chat box. Then I will talk to you about exceptions to the law of demand. What does law of demand say? It relates to normal goods and it talks about that if price becomes more, प्रोडक्ट अगर महंगा हुआ क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड कम हो जाएगा, प्रोडक्ट अगर सस्ता हुआ क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड बढ़ जाएगा. डू यू अग्री? कम ऑन एवरीवन, कम ऑन एवरीबॉडी. Come on, everyone. Right. Okay. So most of you are agreeing with what I am saying. All right. Now exceptions to the law of demand. Here what we are studying. Here we are studying some cases where this behavior will not hold true. So till now what we have studied, that if price rises, quantity will fall. If price falls, quantity will rise. Till now we have studied this. अब तक अपने ये पढ़े हैं कि अगर प्राइस बढ़ेगा क्वांटिटी घटेगा, अगर प्राइस घटेगा क्वांटिटी बढ़ेगा. अब तक अपने ये पढ़े हैं. But now it's going to change. Under exceptions, we are dealing with cases where this does not happen. Where this does not happen means where law of demand is not followed. Where law of demand is not followed. Number one is what we call snob effect. Number one is what we call snob effect or snob appeal, snob effect. You can refer it to as, you can refer. So is the law of demand followed here? The answer is no. Law of demand is not followed here. Is the law of demand followed here? The answer is no. The law of demand is not followed here. Got it? Yes, sir, got it. Now what is snob effect? Now what is snob effect? Guys, some people, why I'm saying some people, the rich people, the people who are very rich, who have high status, you know, they like to show off their status. They like to show off their status. Okay, they like to show off their status. Okay, so let's say if price of diamond ring goes up, you know what the rich people will do? They will purchase more of diamond, and show it to you like this. They will wear diamond ring and show it to you like this. Why will they do that? They will do that in order to show how rich they are, that even when prices are rising, they are rather able to afford more diamonds, because now they have got a chance to show themselves little different. Yes. So this is snob effect. See, it is not obeying the law of demand, because had the law of demand be obeyed, it would have been rise in price would have resulted in fall in quantity. Here opposite is happening. Why? Because here the purpose is not consumption. Here the purpose is prestige. Right? So I believe you get it. That is snob appeal, snob effect. Is that crystal clear, friends? जहां आप दिखानवे के लिए कंजम्पशन करते हो, वो है स्नॉब अपील. खत्म. तो जब प्राइस बढ़ेगा तो आप और खरीदोगे, जिससे लोगों को और जलाएं और लोग हमें देखें कि भाई इसके पास तो बहुत पैसा है. Got it? So that is it. That is the logic. Snob appeal, snob effect, Veblen effect, conspicuous consumption, whatever you want to call it, you're free to do that. All right? Okay, sir. Okay, sir. All right. Number two. Giffen goods. So what is snob appeal? जहां पे हम लोग कोई प्रोडक्ट, रिच लोग, हम लोग मतलब जो लोग रिच है वो लोग कोई प्रोडक्ट प्राइस बढ़ने के बाद भी खरीदेंगे। क्यों? क्योंकि उनको अपना स्टेटस, उनको अपना प्रेस्टीज दिखाना है सोसाइटी में, कि जब महंगाई हो रही है तब भी वो इसको खरीद पा रहे हैं, जैसे डायमंड रिंग्स। अब मैं उम्मीद करता हूं बातें क्लियर है, आगे बढ़ता हूं मैं, सेकेंड पॉइंट पर चलता हूं, थोड़ा ध्यान दें आप लोग। मूविंग ऑन टू द सेकेंड पॉइंट गाइस, वी आर डिस्कसिंग giffen goods. We are discussing what? We are discussing giffen goods. So what is it with giffen goods? What is it with giffen goods? Pay attention friends. In giffen goods what happens is, giffen goods are a category of inferior goods. You know, I'll tell you a story. Guys, do you want to hear a story? Come on, yes or no in the chat. You or no in the chat. To understand giffen goods, you have to hear a story. Are you ready for the story? You or no in the chat. Come on friends. Yes, sir, we definitely are. So let's go. Let's hear that story. You will get the context of what sir is trying to say. All right. Giffen goods. So now, my dear friends, what happens with giffen goods is, pay attention, everyone. Okay. What happens with giffen goods is, the story. It begins during the World War. When does the story begin? During the World War. So let's go to the time of British, or the times where British are fighting the war. Now there is an economist. His name is Robert Giffen. He is observing something. I'll tell you what. But his name is Robert Giffen. During the World War times, mainly two things were consumed by the British. Mainly, number one was bread. Bread was like their necessity, the food with which they would satisfy their hunger. And then there was some luxury food, or party food as we call it, that is eaten in the parties. It was chicken. It was chicken. Now what happened during the World War time was, my dear friends, since bread was a necessity, the demand for breads, the price of breads shooted up, because production was becoming difficult during the World War time. So price of bread shot up. So bread became more expensive. Now people who were doing party, the money they were putting to buy chicken, now they said that, oh my God, our necessities are becoming expensive. Necessity means bread is becoming expensive. So let's stop partying. Let's focus on buying our necessities. So the money that people used to spend on chicken, they started spending on bread. And to the utmost surprise, you know what happened? Compared to the previous time, that is when the bread price has not risen, compared to the previous time, the quantity of bread demanded rose even further. Quantity rose further. Why? Because out of fear, people started putting their money for chicken into buying breads. So as an overall impact, the demand for breads compared to the previous time increased rather than decreasing. Robert Giffen called this as Giffen commodities, Giffen goods. So remember, Giffen goods are a category of inferior goods. Giffen goods are a category of inferior goods. Giffen goods are a category of inferior goods whose rise in price will not result of fall in demand. It will result in rise in demand. So it will have a demand curve like this, upward sloping, not downward sloping. अच्छा सर, कैन यू एक्सप्लेन दिस इन हिंदी? गिफन गुड्स, आई रिवाइज दिस इन हिंदी. वर्ल्ड वॉर के टाइम पे ब्रिटिश लोगों का दो खाना हुआ करता था. क्या तो चिकन खाते थे, लेकिन वो पार्टी का खाना होता था, और क्या तो ब्रेड खाते थे. ब्रेड वो जो होता था उनका पेट भरने के लिए जरूरत का खाना होता था. अब जब ब्रेड की दाम बढ़ने लगी तो लोगों को डर लगने लगा कि भाई ऐसा है कि ब्रेड महंगा होते जा रहा है, अब हम लोग को पार्टी कम कर देना चाहिए. तो जो पैसे वो लोग चिकन पर लगाते थे उससे भी वो लोग अब ब्रेड खरीदने लगे, उस पैसे से भी वो लोग अब ब्रेड खरीदने लगे, उस पैसे से भी वो लोग अब ब्रेड खरीदने लगे. तो जब वो लोग ब्रेड खरीदने लगे उस पैसे से, जब वो लोग ब्रेड खरीदने लगे उस पैसे से, तो ब्रेड का जो पहले डिमांड था, ब्रेड का प्राइस बढ़ने के बाद उसका डिमांड और बढ़ गया. इस अबनॉर्मल बिहेवियर को गिफन पैराडॉक्स या गिफन गुड्स के अंदर पढ़ा जाता है. इसीलिए इसको एक्सेप्शन टू द लॉ ऑफ डिमांड बोलते हैं. इज दैट क्रिस्टल क्लियर एवरीबॉडी? यस और नो? कम ऑन. Yes, yes, it's crystal clear. Sir, is crystal clear. Let's move on further. Sir, what next, sir? Now, my dear friends, the story proceeds further. Now we move on to the third exception. As discussed. What is the third exception, sir? Third exception is conspicuous necessities. My dear friends, you will tell me, during COVID times, the price of electronic gadgets like laptop, phones, which are now a necessity, but price of this laptop and phones were increasing or not? Yes, because sir, online education and everything was at its peak, so their price was rising. But do you think the demand was falling? No, sir. Despite high prices, the quantity was still going up. Despite high prices, quantity was still going up. This is called conspicuous necessities, because it was so important that even at higher prices, consumer had to buy this. Otherwise, how will they study? How will teachers teach, or how will students study? Got it? Or how will people work? Because work from home got active during those times. Moving on to number 4. Okay. So third point is okay. Number 4, this we also studied under future factors affecting demand, future expectations. Obviously, again, it is an abnormal behavior. So if this is a consumer, he or she is thinking that in future, the price may increase. So at present, what will they do? Just because they are thinking that in future price will rise. So at present, even in present, there is no change in price whatsoever. Still their present quantity demanded is going up. Why? Because they are afraid that in future price will rise. So we will have to buy at a higher rate. It's better to buy it today and to increase the consumption today itself. Got it, sir. That is future expectations. Here, what you are noticing, guys, are you noticing this? That when price is rising, quantity is not falling. When price is rising, quantity demanded is also rising. It's not falling. If you look carefully, you'll notice this. That's why we are studying it under exceptions, abnormalities. Moving on. Then there is something called speculative goods. It is like stock market, stocks and shares. So if you will tell me again that if you expect price of, let's say for example, if price of Reliance shares are increasing, what will consumers think? Consumer will think, oh my God, Reliance share prices are going up. It will further go up. So even if price is rising, let's buy shares of Reliance. You see what kind of thing is happening. Price of Reliance shares is increasing. Reliance stocks are increasing. But still, people are thinking that it will further increase. So they still buy it because they are of speculative nature. Speculative means it is involving some kind of guesswork, some kind of guesstimate. Yes or no, friends? Yes. Is it crystal clear? Yes or no, everybody? Come on, guys. Okay. As usual. Yes. Now we are discussing a topic called rationale of law of demand. That is, why is the law of demand downward sloping? Rationale of law of demand. We are discussing this now. Rationale of law of demand. Rationale of law of demand. That means, why is demand curve downward sloping? In exam, anything can come. You have got to be ready. But guys, before this, are you ready for some questions? Are you ready for question, friends? Before I start teaching you this. Okay, so let me give you MCQ 1. Question 1. Inferior goods whose price rises, then demand rises, are called snob goods, snob effect goods. B, luxury goods. C, Giffen goods. D, complementary goods. What do you think is the correct answer, friends? The question is inferior goods whose price rise. If price rises, then demand will also rise. What do you think is the answer, friends? Think and answer. Come on. A, snob effect. B, luxury. C, Giffen. D, complementary. What do you think is the answer, friends? Absolutely. Great to see all of the answers are almost correct, except one or two. Yes, it's correct. So my dear friends, the answer will be Giffen goods, because Giffen goods are that category. I gave you an example, a Giffen paradox, World War times. Yes, sir, we remember. Second question. If price rises, yeah, all right. Under law of demand, which factor is assumed to be constant? Under law of demand, which factor is assumed to be constant? A, income of the consumer. B, price of related goods. C, consumer tastes and preferences. D, all the above. Under law of demand, which factor is assumed to be constant? Under law of demand, pay attention everybody, listen to the question carefully. Under law of demand, which factor is assumed to be constant? Is it income of the consumer that is assumed to be constant? Is it price of related commodities that is assumed to be constant? Is it tastes and preferences of the consumer that is assumed to be constant? Or is it all the above that is assumed to be constant? What say, guys? Yes, sir. It indeed is correct. Remember, friends, remember, except on price. Now my answer. Except on price. Except on price. Except on price. All factors under law of demand are assumed to be constant. All factors under law of demand are assumed constant. Except on price. All other factors are assumed constant. Except on price, all other factors are assumed to be constant. So my answer is all the above. This will be constant, this will be constant, this will be constant. Everything will be constant. Yes. Sir, we got it, sir. So now moving on. All right, moving on. The topic that we were about to discuss, which we have shifted from, rationale of law of demand. That is, why is the demand curve downward sloping? Demand curve downward sloping क्यों है demand curve downward sloping? All right, so pay attention here. Why is the demand curve downward sloping? Pay attention. I'll tell you one thing. बात को ध्यान से सुनिएगा. please remember, when I will discuss this point, why is demand curve downward sloping, there is one thing that you will find in common. What will that thing be? You will always find one thing common, and that would be that my answer is ending with price rises, quantity falling. So all the points that I will explain will have one conclusion. You see, price has risen, quantity has fallen, or price has fallen, quantity has risen. But the way we will reach here will be different. But this will be the destination answer. This much understood? This much understood, yes or no? Yes, sir. We did understand. We did understand this much, sir. Great, great, great. So now, let's discuss the rationale of law of demand. Pay attention, everyone. Number one, price effect. Number one, price effect. So, sir, what is price effect? Acha, remember, I'll repeat, in all the points that I will teach you under this rationale, answer will always end with price rises, quantity falls, price falls, quantity rises. This thing is going to be constant. So pay attention, everybody. जब मैं ये पॉइंट एक्सप्लेन करूंगा, आप ध्यान रखिएगा कि अल्टीमेटली मेरा आंसर एक ही बात से खत्म होगा. मैं जितने पॉइंट्स पढ़ाऊंगा ना, उसमें अल्टीमेटली मेरा आंसर बस इसी से खत्म होगा कि प्राइस बढ़ रहा है तो क्वांटिटी घटेगा, एंड प्राइस घट रहा है तो क्वांटिटी बढ़ेगा. बस इस बात तक पहुंचने का रास्ता मेरा अलग होगा. इस बात तक पहुंचने का रास्ता मेरा अलग होगा, बट पहुंचेंगे हर बार इसी बात पर. अच्छा सर, वी गेट इट सर. तो चलिए बातचीत स्टार्ट करते हैं. व्हाट इज प्राइस इफेक्ट? My dear friends, price effect is a sum total of two things. Income effect and substitution effect. Price effect is a total of two things. Income effect and substitution effect. What is price effect? It is a total of two things. Income effect and substitution effect. So this much is crystal clear. Okay. If this much is crystal clear, okay. Then let's talk about things one after the other. Okay, what is income effect? Guys, pay attention, है ना, ध्यान दीजिएगा. There are two types of income. One is called nominal income, one is called real income. What is nominal income? Cash in hand. Suppose your salary is 20,000 rupees. Suppose 20,000 rupees per month. That is nominal income. Real income. So nominal income relates to what? Nominal income relates to what is the money that you are getting in hand. But what is real income? Real income refers to the purchasing power. Real income refers to the purchasing power. Sir, we did not understand. I'll give you an example. Pay attention. Okay. So let's take two planets. Okay, let's take two planets, Earth and Mars. Let's assume life has started on Mars. Okay, people are staying in Mars, for example. Okay, now on Earth there is Mr. this person, and then there is this person on Mars. His salary is per month rupees 25,000. Okay, here also in Mars his salary is rupees 25,000. Now both of them are going to buy apples. Okay, suppose they spend their entire income in buying apple. Okay, now pay attention, guys. Okay, now please pay attention, everyone. So when we talk about apple, let's say apple costs on Earth 100 rupees a kg, rupees 100 per kg. Okay, see, both of them have same nominal income, that is the income in hand. On Mars, let's say the apple cost on Mars is, let's say, rupees 500 per kg. Okay, 500 per kg. Now can you tell me, this person on Earth, how many quantity of apple he can buy? Obviously you will tell me, sir, 25,000 entire money spent on apple, so 250 kgs of apples can be purchased by this person on Earth, right? But this person on Mars, how much can he buy? Let's see, quantity of apples, 25,000 by 500 rupees. So how much is this person able to buy? 50 kg. My dear friends, Nominal income of both of them was same, which is 25,000 rupees. Nominal income of both of them was same, which is 25,000 rupees. दोनों का nominal income same था 25,000 रुपए. But purchasing power किसका ज्यादा है? Who has the more purchasing power? Real income ज्यादा किसका है? Nominal income तो same है, real income भी same है क्या? किसका real income ज्यादा है? वेरी गुड. यू ऑल आर सेइंग अर्थ वाले का रियल इनकम ज्यादा है, अर्थ पे जो पर्सन है उसका रियल इनकम ज्यादा है. दिस इज व्हाट आई एम सेइंग. रियल इनकम मींस परचेजिंग पावर. सो इफ यू हैव मोर परचेजिंग पावर, इट मींस यू हैव हायर रियल इनकम. रियल इनकम मींस परचेजिंग पावर. yes or no? Yes sir. Real income means what, friends? Real income means purchasing power. Yes sir. So that's what I'm trying to tell you guys here, that if real income is more, guys, pay attention. If real income is more, quantity demanded will be more. And can you tell me, who will tell me why real income is more? Why in Earth real income is more and in Mars real income is less? Both have same nominal income. Why real income is different? Why real income is different? Both have same nominal income. Yes, you heard it correct. Because price on Earth is less, price on Mars is more. So therefore the person on Earth, because of lesser price, can consume more of apples than the person on Mars. That's what I'm saying. So when price was less, quantity was more. What did I tell you? I will explain it through other way, but always my answer will end here only. See here, ultimately I have landed here only. When price falls, quantity rises. Ultimately my answer has landed here only. Didn't I tell you at the very beginning that all my answers will end here only? That price rises, quantity falls, price falls, quantity rises. Here it has explained, here it has happened again. So price effect is income effect plus substitution effect. Remember, income is not related to, income effect is not caring about nominal income. Income effect is related to real 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 income. Acha sir, got it sir. Let's talk about substitution effect then. If you talk about substitution effect, what is substitution effect saying? What is substitution effect? So my dear friends, in substitution effect, what happens? Pay attention. In substitution effect, my dear friends, I have already explained you substitute goods. So let's say if price of tea rises, then what will happen to quantity of tea? Obviously falls. Because of fall in quantity for tea, quantity of coffee will rise. Bas. That is substitution effect. Again, here we have explained in terms of price and quantity. Yes or no? Yes sir. Because now coffee has become relatively cheap. Coffee has become relatively cheaper. Why? Because tea has become relatively more expensive. Because of rise in price of tea. Because of rise in price of tea. Yes sir, we get it. That, my dear friends, is substitution effect. That, my dear friends, is substitution effect. Come on. What is substitution effect? That when rise in price of one product results in rise in demand for the other one. Because जिस commodity का price बढ़ेगा, उसका demand तो घटेगा, तो दूसरे competition का जो demand है वो बढ़ जाएगा, ऊपर चला जाएगा. ये है substitution effect. Income effect क्या है हिंदी में? देखिए, income effect को मतलब real income से है, nominal से नहीं. नॉमिनल इनकम का मतलब होता है आपके हाथ में कितने पैसे आते हैं. बट आपके हाथ में अगर 25,000 आ रहे हैं, इसका मतलब ये बहुत खुशी की बात नहीं है अगर आप इस 25,000 से कुछ खरीद ही नहीं पा रहे हैं. रियल इनकम का मतलब आप खरीद कितना पाते हो. मैंने एग्जांपल दिया, दो लोगों का, एक अर्थ पे रहता है, एक मार्स पे रहता है. नॉमिनल इनकम तो दोनों का 25,000 रुपया है, बट अर्थ पे एप्पल का दाम 100 रुपया किलो है, मार्स में 500 रुपया किलो है. तो जो पर्सन अर्थ में रहता है वो 250 किलो एप्पल खरीद सकता है अपने इनकम से. जो पर्सन मार्स में रहता है वो केवल 50 किलो एप्पल खरीद सकता है. तो रियल इनकम, नॉमिनल इनकम दोनों का 25,000 था, बट रियल इनकम अर्थ वाले का ज्यादा है. अर्थ वाले का रियल इनकम ज्यादा है, मतलब वो डिमांड ज्यादा खरीद सकता है, डिमांड ज्यादा कर सकता है. डिमांड क्यों ज्यादा कर पा रहा था? रियल इनकम ज्यादा था इसलिए. रियल इनकम क्यों ज्यादा था? रियल इनकम क्यों ज्यादा था? क्योंकि अर्थ में एप्पल रिलेटिवली सस्ता था, इसलिए उसका परचेजिंग पावर अर्थ पे ज्यादा था. दैट्स इट. That's it. So that is point number one, which is price effect. Which is price effect. Second is law of diminishing marginal utility or utility maximizing behavior. Law of diminishing marginal utility or utility maximizing behavior. This one was also given by, yes, you guessed it right, our friend Alfred Marshall. Alfred Marshall. Again, Alfred Marshall came into picture. So what is Mr. Marshall saying here? What is Alfred Marshall saying here? Let's hear it out. Let's hear it out. What is Alfred Marshall saying here in law of DMAU? Law of diminishing marginal utility. What is Alfred Marshall saying? So, guys, pay attention. Tell me one thing. Alfred Marshall was saying that as we consume more and more units of a commodity, ना, जैसे जैसे हम लोग एक कमोडिटी को ज्यादा कंज्यूम करते जाते हैं, our willingness to consume more of that commodity keeps falling. मतलब हमारी ये इच्छा कि हम लोग और उस कमोडिटी को कंज्यूम करें वो कम हो जाती है. Take an example, okay? Take an example, okay? Let's go and take an example. Suppose you have studied hard. After studying hard, you go to your home from your school or from your college and you ask your parents for food. Let's say in food you have pizza. Let's say pizza. Okay. Now you eat first pizza. You enjoy first pizza a lot, but you are still hungry. Now you eat second pizza. Now you eat second pizza. Obviously, your hunger is now satisfied a little more. You like second pizza, but which one do you like more? You liked the first pizza more than second pizza. As soon as you have second pizza, in third pizza, you like it a little less. And finally, by fourth pizza, it would have become a burden on you. It would have become a burden on you. So what is happening? As you are consuming more and more units of pizza, as and when you are consuming more and more units of pizza, your willingness, your desire to eat more pizza is falling down. Now guys, tell me one basic sense. If your desire to consume more pizza is falling down, if your desire to consume that additional pizza is falling down, will you be ready to pay more for that additional pizza? No. Since my desire for that additional pizza is less, my willingness to pay for it will be less. So I will buy a higher pizza only when I get it at a lesser price. So price falls, quantity rises. Sir, in Hindi, once again explain. Okay, I will explain it in Hindi again. Law of DMU. All right. देखिए, जब हमें भूख लगा है, मान लीजिए हमें पिज्जा मिलता है खाने को या रोटी मिलती है खाने को, जो भी मिलता है. अब अगर हमें पिज्जा मिला है खाने को, आप सोच के देखिए, जब हम पहला पिज्जा खाएंगे तो हमें बहुत ज्यादा सेटिस्फैक्शन मिलेगा. अगर हमारा पेट नहीं भरा है तो सेटिस्फैक्शन हमें सेकंड पिज्जा से भी मिलेगा. उसमें भी नहीं भरा तो सेटिस्फैक्शन हमें थर्ड पिज्जा से भी मिलेगा. बट एक कॉमन सेंस लगाकर आप देखो, सबसे ज्यादा सेटिस्फैक्शन कौन सी पिज्जा से मिला था? पहले वाले के, क्योंकि भूख सबसे ज्यादा तब था. सेकंड वाले में भी सेटिस्फैक्शन मिला, लेकिन पहले वाले से कम. थर्ड वाले में उससे भी कम. क्या पता फोर्थ पिज्जा आते आते तो आपको वोमिटिंग होने लग जाए, उल्टी आने लग जाए, आपको तो और पिज्जा चाहिए ही नहीं. यस और नो? इसको बोलते हैं लॉ ऑफ डिमिनिशिंग मार्जिनल यूटिलिटी. अब एक बात बताइए आप मुझे, अगर आपका हर एडिशनल पिज्जा से मन भरते चला जा रहा है, तो जो आप पहले वाले पिज्जा के लिए प्राइस दिए थे, आप सेकंड वाले को भी उतना में ही खरीद लोगे क्या? नहीं. पहले वाले का सेटिस्फेक्शन ज्यादा था तो आप पहले वाले के लिए ज्यादा पैसे देने के लिए रेडी होगे, सेकंड वाले के लिए उससे कम, थर्ड वाले के लिए उससे भी कम. तो आप देखिए क्वांटिटी कब बढ़ रहा है? जब प्राइस फर्दर रिड्यूस होते जा रहा है, वरना आप क्वांटिटी नहीं बढ़ा रहे हो. यही तो मैंने कहा, दैट इज लॉ ऑफ डीएमयू या यूटिलिटी मैक्सिमाइजिंग बिहेवियर. इज दैट क्रिस्टल क्लियर फ्रेंड्स? पॉइंट नंबर 2 इज डन. यस और नो? कम ऑन फ्रेंड्स, come on friends. Yes, correct. Moving on to the third one friends. Third one, arrival of new customer. This is very simple. Arrival of new consumers. So what is happening here? If suppose there is a deodorant, this is a deodorant, okay? Let's say its price is 2000. Now there are these 3 consumers who are able to buy this deodorant. Okay. But now there are many consumers who only have the ability to pay rupees 500, but there is no deo available in 500. Now let's say this brand decides to reduce the price from rupees 2000 to rupees 500. Now these people who were initially not the consumers have also now entered the market as consumers. This is what we are saying, that when price is reduced, existing customers will buy more. Listen carefully. जब price गिरेगा तब existing customers तो खरीदेंगे. When price will fall, existing customers will buy more. But when price will fall, not only existing customers but new customers will also enter the market. नए customers भी market में enter करेंगे और खरीदना चाहेंगे. Okay, yes sir. So arrival of new customers. Got it sir. Got it sir. So third point is again explained, the law of DMU. And lastly, moving on to the fourth point, different uses of a commodity. Fourth point, different uses of a commodity. Different uses of a commodity. The last one. I told you about composite demand, right? Like milk. Now what will happen here? Suppose price milk, mainly milk is used for drinking. Main use, let's say we categorize milk's main use is that we drink milk. Okay. Now pay attention. Milk has other uses. Pay attention everybody. Milk has other uses. What other uses does it have? Butter, cheese, cream, chocolate, and so many other things. But now pay attention everyone. What am I trying to tell you here? When milk is expensive at your home, let's say you are buying milk, for your home, it's very expensive. So friends, when milk is very expensive in your home, you will use it only for the main use. But let's say milk gets cheaper. You will tell me one thing. If milk gets cheaper, what will happen? Yes, you are correct. If milk gets cheaper, now in our home, our parents will also use milk, not only for drinking. They will also start making cream, paneer as we call it, and then there will be yogurt and so many other things that will be prepared at our home using this milk. So see, now when price has fallen, milk is not only used for main use, but also for less important use. But when price rises, it is only used for the most important one. So when price is falling, quantity is rising very aggressively, because now it is being used not only for main purposes, but also for other purposes. And therefore this point, see, every point has this common factor. Price falls, quantity rises. Because here, what are we studying? Reasons behind the downward sloping demand curve. So there has to be this 4 points discussed. And now guys, we move on to the last topic. Move on to the last topic of demand. Then we will only be left over with elasticity, which obviously we will do in our next class. But are you ready? Are you ready? Come on. Boost up your energy. Yes, sir, we are ready. So the topic is movement versus shift. What is it? Movement versus shift. Come on, let's go about it. Movement versus shift. Let's go about it, guys. All right. So what is movement? Movement. Here. Let's put movement here. And shift here. Okay. No issues. No issues. Pay attention, guys. Pay attention, everybody. So when we talk about movement or shift, by the way, first know the name. Movement is also called change in quantity demanded. If you ever hear change in quantity demanded, they are talking about movement. But when they are talking about shift, shift is also called change in demand. Movement is called change in quantity demanded, while shift is called change in demand. While shift is called change in demand. While shift is called change in demand. Movement is called change in quantity demanded, while shift is called change in demand. Get it, sir? Yes, sir, we get it, sir. Now, what does movement occur? Why does movement occur? Movement occurs because the commodity's own price has changed. So when there is a rise or fall in demand due to own price, what is movement? When there is rise/fall in demand due to what? Due to own price of the commodity. Due to own price. Other factors constant. Other factors constant. So let's say price has fallen down. So demand has risen. This is called movement. Okay. Or when price has gone up. So demand has fallen. And when price has fallen, demand has gone up. So when this kind of experience is there, this is called movement. This is called movement. But. Do you think only own price affects demands? No, sir. We have studied so many factors affecting demand, like income of the consumer, price of related commodities, price of substitute commodities, consumers' tastes and preferences, and so many other commodities that we have studied about. Price of related commodities, tastes and preferences, price of substitutes, and so many other commodities that we have studied about. So pay attention everybody, when there is a rise or fall in demand, when there is a rise or fall in demand due to other factors affecting demand, due to other factors affecting demand, own price remaining constant. Come on, what did I say? Own price remaining constant. That's right. Own price remains constant here. So when there is a rise and fall in demand due to other factors affecting demand, right? Own price here is constant. Like for example, income has grown. Income बढ़ गया तो demand बढ़ गया. Income fell, demand fell. So when own price is not affecting the demand, any other factor, tastes and preferences, any other factor, price of related commodities, price of substitute commodities, price of complementary commodities, whatever, if they are influencing the demand, that's shift. But if own price is affecting demand, that's movement. I believe all of us get this. Come on, yes or no? Come on, yes or no? Yes, sir. So in movement, if you talk about the graph, you move along the same graph. In movement, if you talk about the graph, you move along the same graph. So like if I am drawing a graph here for demand curve, I have written price here, quantity demanded here. Along the same graph, you will move upward or downward. That's movement. But what is shift? What is shift? If I brought it here, shift means if you put it right, it goes here. Or again, if you put it left, it comes here. That is shift. That is shift. That is shift. So in movement, there is movement along the same curve. The curve moves along the same one. So you are moving along the same curve. Change in curve. That's why it is called shift, na? Because the curve has shifted. Change in curve. अच्छा सर, गॉट इट सर. तो अगर खुद के प्राइस की वजह से डिमांड में बदलाव आए, उसे मूवमेंट कहते हैं. और प्राइस को छोड़कर जो भी फैक्टर हो गया आपका, इनकम, रिलेटेड कमोडिटी, सब्स्टिट्यूट या कोई भी और फैक्टर हो गया, जिसकी वजह से डिमांड में अगर बदलाव आए, तो हम लोग माय डियर फ्रेंड्स इसको बोलते हैं, ठीक पहचाना आप लोगों ने, शिफ्ट. गॉट इट सर. So point number 3 is also done, sir. Moving on, sir. Moving on, sir. Moving on, sir. Point number 4. Two types. Movement is of two types, lovely friends. Okay. Shift is also of two types. extension, contraction. Shift is also of two types, increase, and the next one is decrease. Shift is also of two types. Got it, sir. So in movement, there is extension and contraction. Shift, there is increase and decrease. Achha, by the way, this extension is also called expansion. So there is no problem if you write expansion or extension. It's all the same. Okay? Now pay attention. I am talking about extension or expansion of demand. Okay? So first let's talk about expansion. Fifth, expansion. And then I will talk about contraction also. Okay? Here I will talk about contraction also. Here we are in movement only, so don't shift from here. So in expansion, what happens? If commodities price falls, I told you in movement, price is responsible for the change in quantity. So the quantity is rising. That is expansion. In contraction, what is happening? If price is rising, quantity is falling. Sir, let's draw the graph of expansion. So let's say this was the original price. Okay, let's draw this. This was the original price. So this was the original quantity. Okay, all good. Now price fell. Obviously, if price falls, demand will rise. Demand will rise. So you are here now. Where is the curve? It's intersecting here. So it is intersecting this way. And you have drawn this. So my dear friends, if you noted it, if you noted the way I had drawn, I had moved from this portion to this portion. Yes, sir. That's what I'm trying to say. Under expansion, there is downward movement along the demand curve. There is downward movement along the demand curve. Under expansion, there is downward movement along the demand curve. Mind you. Got it, sir. But what about contraction, sir? If you talk about contraction, friends, let me write it down for you here. I write price here, quantity here. Now price has risen. So for example, if price was this, quantity was this. This was the original case. Now look at the movement. Look at the movement. Price बढ़ गया. Price got up. So quantity घट गया, quantity गिर गया, यहाँ आ गया. अब intersection यहाँ हो रहा है. If you join them up, what kind of movement did you see? Upward along the same curve. So in contraction, there is upward movement along the same curve. In contraction, there is upward movement along the same curve. My dear friends, is that crystal clear? Yes or no? Come on, online friends. Yes or no? Come on, guys. Come on, everyone. Okay. Now let's talk about the increase and decrease scenario. All right. Let's talk about the increase and decrease scenario. After that, we will take up some MCQs yet again. Okay. So let's talk about increase and decrease. Okay. So here I write increase. Here I write decrease. Now see, in increase, what happens? The demand curve will move rightwards. So if this is the demand curve, I'll show it to you. If this is the demand curve, where will you move? You will move rightward. So under increase in demand, there is a rightward shift. Right. And I told you all, quantity demanded means movement, demand, change in demand means shift. Remember this. Okay. Now coming back, decrease. In decrease, there is a leftward shift. So in increase, there is a rightward shift. In decrease, there is a leftward shift. So if this is the demand curve, that is D1, then the curve will shift leftward. So it is D2. So therefore, it is a leftward shift. In decrease, there is a leftward shift. Got it, sir? Sir, we got it, sir. So this is the major discussion. Now, my dear friends, Let me tell you, the demand portion, see, I told you there are two portions, demand and elasticity. As I told you, as I had assured you, the demand portion I'll finish. I have done that successfully. But now I'll discuss some MCQs. Okay. So demand. Yes, I will upload this. I am uploading all the material. So this one also I'll upload. Last class's material also I uploaded. Okay. So demand we have done. So now before we wind up the day, let's solve some MCQs. Okay. Let's solve some MCQs. Let me ask you some questions. Okay. See, let's see who is giving us the correct answer. All right. Let's see. Under expansion of demand, how does the curve move? A, expansion of demand. Okay, so option 1 is upward along same curve, upward along same curve. B, downward along same curve. C, rightward shift. D, leftward shift. What do you say, friends, is the answer? Come on. A, B, C or D? I need the option, correct option number. A, B, C or D? Come on, friends. Yes, very good. Majority answers, almost all the answers are correct, and that's correct. Downward along the same curve. It's downward along the same curve. Rightward shift happens in case of increase in demand. I have used the word expansion. Be careful, okay? Be careful. I have used the word expansion. Expansion, when I am using, it is obviously along the same curve. Okay? Moving on to the next question. Moving on to the next question. Under contraction of demand, there is A, upward movement along the same curve, B, downward movement along same curve, C, rightward shift, D, leftward shift. Let's hear it from you all. Come on, friends. What do you think is the answer? Contraction, what I have used. Contraction, what I have used. Contraction, what I have used. Yes. So answer is correct for people who are saying upward movement along same curve, because I have used the word contraction. Please remember, in expansion and contraction, you move on the same curve. I depicted it right now. I showed expansion, downward movement, contraction, upward movement. I showed it just now. Okay. Say. Moving on to the next question. Real income is equal to A, cash in hand, B, cash at bank, C, nominal income, D, purchasing power. What do you think real income is equal to? What do you think nominal income is, this real income is equal to? Cash in hand, cash at bank, nominal income or purchasing power? That's right, everybody. That's right. Real income is nothing. I discussed it today while we were discussing what? While we were discussing this one, rationale behind the law of demand. So I told you, it relates to purchasing power. Okay. Next question. Next question. Next question. A wants to buy a Jaguar car. This shows A, inferior goods, B, snob appeal, C, necessities, D, none of above. What do you think is the correct answer, friends? Come on, everybody. Yes, you guessed it right. Yes, you guessed it right. So the answer is snob appeal. This is nothing but snob appeal. The want to be differentiated from the people, the want to show prestige. Correct. Next question. If consumer expects that in future price of goods will fall, then presently demand will fall, then presently demand will rise, fall, no change, all of the above. Come on, everyone. Then presently demand will. Presently demand will. Then presently demand will. Yes. Array, if future price of goods, if in future price will fall, so Baba, why will I purchase it now? Presently, I will reduce the consumption so that I can buy it later at a later date at a reduced price. So obviously it has to be B. Correct? It has to be B. Correct. Moving on. Next question. Next question. Price effect equals to dash plus dash. Option A, income effect plus substitution effect. B, law of diminishing marginal utility plus substitution effect. C, given goods plus conspicuous effect. D, all the above. What is price effect? Options are A, income effect plus substitution effect. B, law of diminishing marginal utility plus substitution effect. C, given goods plus conspicuous effect. D, all the above. Yes, you people are correct. You people are correct in saying so, in stating so. So if you are saying price effect is income effect plus substitution effect, you guys are absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Price effect is income effect plus substitution effect. Right. Let's move on to the next question. Increase in demand takes place due to fall in own price of the commodity, fall in own price of commodity, fall in income, rise in income, D, none of above. Or D, I could say in D, I will write both A and C. Increase in demand takes place due to what? Come on, pay attention everybody and tell me. Why does demand increase? Due to fall in own price, due to fall in income, due to rise in income, or what? What do you think is the answer, friends? Come on. Yes, you guys guessed it right. So please pay attention. Some of you are making mistake. I have used the word increase. Increase and decrease is used when there is a change in demand due to other factors affecting demand, own price not changing, own price remaining constant. So you cannot say own price is falling, because if own price falls, it will result in extension of demand, expansion of demand. It will not result in increase. Be careful with the word increase and expansion, okay? Yes, sir. So it will not be both A and C. It will only be C, rise in income, because income is other factor affecting demand. If own price, then own price will not result in increase. It will result in expansion. Look at the word I have used. I have used the word increase in demand. Be very careful. I have given a tricky one now. I have given a tricky one now. Is that clear, everybody? Because when income rises, demand will rise. It will not be because of other factors. It will be because of other factors. Obviously, fall in income. How will fall in income result in rise in demand? So obviously, it can't be the answer. But why not fall in price? Yes, demand will rise, but increase word is incorrect. Yes, demand will rise, but increase word is used only when it is because of other factors, not because of own price. Is that clear, everybody? So the answer will be C, rise in income. C, rise in income. Be very careful with the use of words. Expansion, increase, decrease, and contraction. After the class, your homework is to study that, because there students make a lot of mistakes. All right. So with this, we can wind up the day today. See you all in the next class. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you very much. Tata. Bye-bye.